Okay, folks, so this is the final exhibition, unless there's any bugs that come up when I try to make this video, of the One Enemy RPG, the instructor version of the project. So if you're just stumbling on this, or maybe you're a prospective student and somehow you found my YouTube channel because you're curious and you're kind of net stalking me, which is totally fine. Hi, by the way. So what this is, in my game scripting and coding class, what I try to do is I provide a project template that I've constructed, in this case an Unreal 4, and it's a RPG template. And the whole idea is that the one enemy thing, there's actually more than one enemy. In my version, there's more than one enemy. It's really based on the project requirement as much as it is the actual functionality. So I may change the name of that later. Maybe it'll be called something else. But for now, I like to call it the One Enemy RPG template. So the students have done an incredible job. They've made projects that are way cooler than this one. This is just the result of me taking the instructor version, so they get the template, which is all nice and clean. Everything's really nicely commented in the blueprint scripting and everything, but it's all very plain and basic, and there's nothing that's been implemented in terms of game content. It's just the template, and the students take the template, they add things I require. Like I say, hey, maybe you need to have something that has like a turret that has like a dot product on it so we can tell whether or not it's facing you. That's a thing that I'll ask for, and then the students will implement. But they have a lot of freedom. They can do any type of project they want. It can be science fiction, it can be Western, it can be slice of life, it can be anything they want, as long as it just hits the things that I ask them to hit. And I try to give my students as much freedom as possible to be creative within the bounds of learning scripting and coding. And so they basically build this as an individual project, which is something that's cool, because at Purdue, we're really good at getting you in teams. And that's great. But you do need some cool individual work to flex, to put on a portfolio. And so I like to provide that in my classes. And so that's what we did, as we took this template and we built a little miniature RPG out of it. So what are some of the things that are in my instructor project? Now, for the most part, if it is in the instructor project, it's because it was a lesson that I gave in the semester. And so this is content that the students received, but it was sort of presented as, hey, here's a cool thing that I'm going to do in my version of the project. You can take it and implement it in your game, or especially as the semester kind of goes on, you don't want to give them some new thing to try, then it breaks their project and they weren't even planning on doing that feature or whatever. So what I always do, especially once we get past the middle of the semester, I say, hey, look, you can try to implement this, but if it's totally cool if you don't want to, because if you feel like it'll break your project. But the point is, almost all the features that you'll see that are outside of the template that I've added in my version were lessons that I gave the students. So let's just take a quick look, and we're going to keep this in game as best we can here. One of the interesting features that I added that's unique to my template, and this is just a dungeon Unreal asset pack here that I used to kit bash an environment together. That kind of looked interesting, is you see this white cube here. Now, this white cube isn't a white cube when you actually play the game. It only looks like that now. This is called an enemy proxy. And so the way that combat normally works when you fight an enemy in the way the template's designed is that you're on a mission, and at some point you are it's kind of like an old school RPG where you're not actually fighting in the place your character is standing. You're kind of teleported to a special little combat arena that kind of represents what the area kind of looks like generically, and you get into a turn-based battle. And so the way the template works is that it's really part of a mission. Like, you could go here, get the donut, get the car keys, go fetch the thing, or find the treasure chest, or whatever, all these kind of mission things that you could be doing. One of those mission steps would teleport you to a combat. Oh, you walk here, and once you walk here, then you go into a combat. Well, I wanted my version of the game to actually have enemies kind of standing around, and if you got close to them, they would chase you. And you can run away, and if you run away fast enough, you will actually, they'll stop chasing you, and you can avoid combat. But if they get close enough to you, then you go into the combat. So I made 3 different enemy types, and what you do is you click on this and you can select what enemy type it is, and then when you play the game, that box, that white cube, is actually replaced with the enemy that it's supposed to represent. So that's kind of and I did teach this. This was a lesson I gave, how to construct this, totally something that I showed in class, but that's kind of a unique aspect of my instructor project. Okay, and so let's go ahead then and take a little tour here of just the environment. I'm going to go into game mode and turn off the pathing information. All right, so this is where you start. This is just a little dungeon crawl, basically, and the characters are silly. It's a pack of 3D scanned characters. They're modern day characters. They don't fit this setting at all, but it's just whatever. It was just kind of funny. So here's a little outdoor environment that I just bashed together. You actually can't go past this. The one thing I always like to teach, it's very common for student projects when you get to the edge of the world to just have everything stop, and so it looks like you're looking out into a void. And what I always teach them to do is make a little environment that you can look out into, so it looks like, it's like a backdrop in like a Hollywood movie or something. You can't actually go out here, but it looks like there is a world that's continuing on, right? And so this is just kit bashed with a dungeon pack that you can get from Unreal, and this is just the Unreal landscaping tool. Okay, and so basically the level design is very rudimentary because this was just game jammed, and this was not designed carefully, which I knew was going to be the case. And there actually are design problems that this has based on it not being done carefully, based on me just grabbing these finished assets, dumping them in, and just snapping them together without really planning, which is something I actually teach my students not to do because it gets bad results. And in the case of this, it actually really hurts my gameplay. One of the things in my level design course, which is a separate course, but it's related to this one, I always say that level design is meant to enhance your gameplay, that you have an underlying game design, that's the engine, that's the motor of your game, and then the level design, how you lay out where the hallways are, how wide they are, how big the rooms are, how, are there stairs, is there a lot of topography, are you going up and down a lot, all that stuff is really in service of making the game design as best it can be. It is the best it can be, right? And so what happened here, because I rushed and didn't really think about that, and I knew I was doing this, by the way, I knew there'd be some issue that would come up based on the game design not being thought about, just throwing these things together, is I actually lose some gameplay because when these fellows here, these white cubes, when they just become people, they become the enemies, which are just, regular looking people because it's what I could find quickly. They're not like goblins or anything scary. There's not enough room for you to escape them. So that gameplay of you seeing an enemy give chase to you and then you turning around and running away, you can't actually do that in this environment. The environment's too tight. If I walk up close to this, enough, and it starts to give chase to me and I turn around and run away, I don't have, I'm bumping into the walls, I'm bumping into this environment, and I just don't have enough room to escape, and so I'm going to get into every single combat. I can't avoid any of them, and so that's actually some gameplay that I should have that my level design actually takes away, and it's because I didn't sit down and really think about how my level layout was affecting the underlying game design I had. And I think that's really interesting to point out in this kind of slapdash instructor project that, that was just kind of thrown together, in a few hours, that, I think maybe, I should say a few hours, probably at this point, it's probably like a day and a half of work for me to kind of throw some of this stuff together. Obviously, the template was something I built far in advance. But, unless you really take into account and carefully design a level, you're going to actually hurt your own gameplay. And I think that's kind of fascinating that I did that as part of, not being very careful and throwing this around. So let's look over here. And then what we have here is this is kind of a silly thing. This is a turret, and it shoots little cannonballs at you. And that's to fulfill a project requirement that my students had, that there had to be some environmental damage, that there had to be something in the world that wasn't one of the enemies that can hurt you. So turret would work, spikes, fire, some of the students did vines, and it has to provide damage to the player. And so for me, it is a turret. Now, if you get behind the turret, there's a dot product, which is just some vector math that tells the turret not to try to shoot at you. And you can see, because I threw this together quickly, this is actually off center. I couldn't tell when I originally threw it on, but that's because I made it like an hour ago. All right, so and this is another enemy proxy here, and you can see there's no room to escape. They're going to find you, right? Just furthering going on the tour here. This is one of my door objects that I taught the students how to script. Obviously, the visuals here are very rudimentary. I don't have proper door graphics, so I kind of just hack something together with bits, you know, hoping that the unlocked thing here kind of looks enough like it's a door. But you'll get a prompt to open it, and you'll go through here. And it's actually part of the mission that you have to open this door. This mannequin is just there to tell you the door facing. It will go away when you press play. All right, and as we go through the hallway of these catacombs, here's another enemy proxy. Again, you can't escape. So that part of the game design just doesn't even happen. And this is one of those instances where I don't want to have to make a huge environment, so I have a little cave in here. You can kind of look and see that there's more environment, but you can't actually get to it. So that's kind of one of those things, again, I teach the students in the level design course is you don't want, you know, your world to just end. You want some kind of backdrop that looks like it keeps going, right? And so we're continuing on here, and then we go until we have various enemies, and then you finally get to where the final boss is, which is called the Cheese Man. Now, why is it the Cheese Man? It's because sometimes when I program things, I will ask, and this is kind of the last room you can go into, and you don't see that the Cheese Man doesn't have a proxy because that's mission based, and so you'll just teleport to the combat arena and fight that boss. There's no proxy for it. The idea here, sometimes when I script things, I'll ask the students, hey, what's a name for this? What should it do? And of course they're going to come up with silly things, and I love that, actually. So they came up with the Cheese Man. So I made an enemy that just attacks you normally, but as a special attack, they'll throw a stinky piece of cheese at you, and there's a small chance in the code that cheese will cause damage over time. The noxious fumes of the miasma of the cheese will do damage over time to you. So that's what happens in this boss fight. All right, so now that I've done the tour, let's go ahead and play this, and you're going to hear audio. You'll hear little bumps in the night. The mix isn't great, because again, this was just slapped at, you know, so I do teach a game audio course here, so I would actually critique this mix as maybe not being the best, but it does have sound effects, does have character footsteps, does have music. The music is music I composed, not actually for this project. It's just stuff that I had from my, you know, musical life that I just put in, you know, so again, it's not necessarily themed. The combat music is sort of this, you know, blues shuffle that doesn't fit this environment at all, but it is high energy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play. If I can remember the shortcut to play. There we go. All right. Now, I apologize to my colleague, Professor Musas. I do have my Windows toolbar visible in this, which he hates when he reviews portfolios. So, okay. You can hear the music going on, and you can see it's this dandy-looking fellow. I don't know why his mouth's open. Again, this is just a character that was pulled down from the marketplace, just so it wouldn't be the Unreal character. And I changed the font from the default font to, this is literally the font from WrestleMania, which I thought was kind of hilarious. All right. All right, defeat the evil Cheese Man. That's the quest. All right, so let's go ahead and go into this room and get into a combat. You can see the proxy is not a white cube anymore. It's that office-looking fellow. It actually had that. It's launching cannonballs at me. All right, we're in a combat now. Okay, this is our turn-based combat. Player health, enemy health. All right, let's do this. It's a very simple system. Now, some of the students did amazingly complex things where they added a bunch of options. I just have attack, defend, and item, and I don't have items. The only way you earn an item is you have a random chance to earn one if you win the combat. All right, and you can see player level 1, there is data tables that are generated with Excel spreadsheets that govern both the player level and the enemy level and their stats. So we do have some data-driven design in here. And every time you beat an enemy, you do get XP. So let's try it. Let's do an attack. And you can see it's just ridiculous sort of sounds for the voices, you know. And very simple little anims just to sell the idea. So here are the enemies defending, which means when I attack, I'll do less damage. So it's kind of like they're turtling up. See, I did no damage because the enemy was defending. They're going to try to hurt me, and actually my health is kind of low, so I need to be very careful. Especially because there is a turret in this room, so I need to get out of this room as soon as this combat's over. Alright, so that's that doesn't have that font, that's why it shows up like that. So I'm going to get out of here. Whew. Okay, phew. Alright, now, my health is low. One kind of funny feature I implemented, but actually before I explain that, the reason why you see funny characters show up is that font doesn't have all the characters I'm using, right? This is, again, you game jam this stuff together. So whenever there's an apostrophe or something, you'll see, you know, that weird symbol come up because the font doesn't actually have that character. So this character model from the marketplace actually had an amazing dance anim as part of it, and so I implemented a thing that if you make the character dance, they restore some, not all, but some of the player health. So let's have them dance. So this is going to cause basically the health to go back up to 50%. So if if the health was at 10, you'll get back to 50 because the maximum health at level 1 is and you're hearing some of these random ambient sounds play. Some of them are way too loud. Okay, so yeah, the health is building back up. So by the time I get to my next combat, my health should be back up to 50 from doing this. Okay, so, you know, silly thing, but, you know, I always like to have an excuse to put in a fun game system. Let's get into our next combat here. Alright, let's go right at... See, my health is at 50 now. Alright, and enemies defending, and it's now my turn here. They dodged me. They do have a chance to dodge. They're defending again, and now I win the combat. And there we go. Okay. So the first step in the actual quest is to open this door. So I get to this waypoint, and it's going to say, open the door, and you can see where the font does not have some of those characters that I'm using. So I'm going to press interact, and now the door rotates open. Nice. And we're going to go, and up here's another enemy. We have another fight. Okay. Alright, so... enemy turn, they're just defending. Now I'm pretty close to leveling up here. Once I get another enemy or two defeated, I should level up here. And let's see if I level up yet. Nope, but I have been earning health items, so I do have the option to heal if I need to. Let's get into another combat over here. As you can see, I can try to run away, but I just have so little room to do so. Okay. Oh, that hurts. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and use an item. So now my health goes up to 84. Now it's now they get a chance to hit me because it does use a turn when I use a health item. And there we go, and they dodge. I hit the enemy. Okay, they're defending again, so I wait for my turn. There we go. They dodge me again. So I'm in pretty good shape here. Although I'm not doing a lot of damage, they're definitely deflecting a lot of it. I should use another item. I hope I have another item. I do. Good. All right. And so they're going to take their turn here. They hit me. Now we have the upper hand now. So I hope I level up, because that's going to... Wow. Yeah. Do I have another item? I don't. So I better win. Uh-oh. I'm in trouble, folks. I could actually lose. Oh, yep. I lost. Okay. So... and the game should just end, you know, just kind of unceremoniously dumps you back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to play this again, except that this time I'm not going to do every optional thing that I can do. And let me just get rid of the message window here. So, yep, we do have a run. So... what's going to hurt me, though, is by not doing all the combats, I might not be strong enough to beat the boss. So let's hope that I am. Because I don't want this video to be a super long time. I can always cheat and crank up the player stats, but I don't want to do that. Alright. Alright, so I win that battle. Health is still looking good. But I did not win an item, so that's unfortunate here. Okay, so let's get into this combat here. All right. Ah, yes, I dodged. Excellent. Okay. Here we go. They're in. They're defending. And okay, good. I'm rolling really well here, so that's good. But I'm not winning any health items, so that's really unfortunate. So let's hope that. I tried to run away, but just too quick. That's going to. I could always reduce the speed. There are various things I can do to try to balance the too small environment. All right, they're defending. Okay, I'm still in good shape. And okay, so I win that battle, and I did earn a health item, thank goodness. And I can see the waypoint up ahead, so I'm getting close to the boss. And I just have a few more combats. I hope, because I do need to kind of level up at least once. I'm going to go ahead and use my healing item, so my health's back up to 94. Enemies in the defensive stance now, and I'm in good shape because I already got him down to 24. Didn't do too well on that turn. They got me, but not too much, fortunately. Okay, so I win that battle, and I leveled up. I leveled up to 2, so I am more powerful. I have better stats. That's good, just in the nick of time, because the boss is coming up here. So now I have 120 health because I leveled up. I also have, you can't see this anywhere in the UI, but there's an attack and a defense, and those stats are all better now. So I'm going to do better in this fight, and I'm going to stand a chance against the boss now. I just hope I win an item here. Okay, to be honest, I feel like I need an item, so I'm going to try to find those last couple of combats so I can try to win an item here. That hurts. Alright, didn't do too well there. And they're defending a lot. It's all just random chance what they pick to do. If students wanted to try to put a little bit of intelligence, they certainly can. Yeah, I'm not doing too well against this enemy here. They're just getting really good defensive rolls in the combat scripting here. Ooh. Ouch. Well, that risk did not pay off because... Oh, I did a nice hit there. Got them all the way down to 2. But they got me really good. Yeah, I'm going to have to waste an item, so I hope I get one back. Uh-oh, so they hit me. I win, but yikes. I hope I won an item at least. Okay, good. That didn't work out well. Now, I can dance to get some of my health back, fortunately. So I'm going to do that and earn back some health. And because my potential total health is now 120, I should be able to get to 60 health now by dancing long enough. So it doesn't take very long. So we'll just watch our fellow here bust a groove. He's very talented. Very, very talented. Alright, that should do the trick. And now we can go fight the boss, the cheese man, the cheese thrower. So we see the waypoint here. And here it is. Here is the final boss. And you can see they have 200 health. My health's back up to 60. I know I'm going to need all the health I can get, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one item I have for my first turn. Alright, yeah, they did a lot of damage to me right away. This is not going to look good. I did some damage. Ah, good, I missed. Or he missed. Good, good, good. Okay, here we go. He hasn't tried to hit me with the cheese yet. He'll actually throw cheese. Oh, yep, he did, but not today, Stinky. That's dialogue the class came up with. That means the damage over time effect didn't work. The cheese man threw cheese, but it did not affect me. So that's awesome. Okay, so we hit the enemy, and they're defending now. So now I get another turn. I didn't do any damage to them. Let's see what they do. Oh, they're still defending, so I get another chance. Don't do any damage. Enemy takes their turn. They're still defending. Wow, this is a real tough battle here. Oh, okay. They tried to hit me with the cheese, but it failed again, so that's good. Alright, so I did some damage. Good. I needed to... Okay, they keep trying to throw cheese and it's not working. You see a growing pile of stinky cheese there. And here we go. I did a lot of damage. Look at that. They keep trying to hit me with the cheese attack. But fortunately, it is like a 20% chance. And actually, the collision of the cheese, this is a little bug. It's actually pushing the character's camera a little bit. That's why I'm a little askew now. And I win. I win the battle, and that's the boss fight. So, and I leveled up, which won't really matter because there's no other enemies to fight. So to complete my little game here, I'm going to go back to where I came from. Was the cheese man misunderstood? Yeah. So that's my ending. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit escape now, and we'll just and it's interesting. There's always little bugs, right? The combat music didn't stop after the boss. It stopped after the regular enemies, but not in the final encounter for some reason. But I'm gonna say that is my final submission as an instructor. So we won't worry about that. So, one last thing I'll say, if this were a student project, how would I grade this? Well, what I like to do when I grade is I like to try to provide, there's always going to be some points that are based on subjectivity. Me taking my experience, 10 years plus from the industry, my experience as a teacher, and I look at things and the students just have to trust me, but I try to provide as many objective criteria as I can so that they can get a lot of points based on, well, I did this and that's clear and in the rubric. So what are some of the things for this? Well, for a final submission, anything that doesn't have the kind of polish that you'd expect a portfolio project to have. Now, that doesn't mean that there are things that, especially for level design. Now, if you were a character artist, having a character that first of all wasn't your own would be horrible, but if it was your own and they had like an open mouth the whole time like that one did, those would obviously affect you negatively, but that's outside of the scope of what I do for level design, scripting, coding, those things. And so it's going to be other things that I'm going to be looking at. Like, for instance, one thing that would knock this down from an A to a B, I would say this is kind of a B to B plus. Probably a B plus if this were a student project. What I would really like about it is I would have loved the enemy proxy system, the expansion of the combat, the little dance to get more health. I would have liked, the environment work would have been something that I'm not actually an environment artist by trade, but I do have a lot of experience of kit bashing, so it is easier for me, I think, than the students to very rapidly grab a kit of assets and throw together something that looks decent. I probably would have critiqued the level design though, but this is a scripting coding class, so that wouldn't have been as up front in my mind. But I'll tell you what, those fonts with the bad characters, that would have probably knocked it out from an A, because that was polished that if I were a student, because obviously I did this in just a handful of hours as a quick exercise to have fun. But, the students, they have all semester to do this. And so they have to have the ability to self-critique, look at something like that. Oh, that font doesn't have all the characters I'm using, so it's going to put in a nonsense character in there instead. It's really the student has to be able to recognize that and either not use those characters or use a different font or whatever. So, for a final submission, an A work is something that is really polished to a certain standard from top to bottom, and things that obviously say, hey, I'm an amateur, I'm a student in the scope of this class. Like I said, it's actually okay if they use like the default Unreal Mannequin character, because again, doing a character is a lot of work. It's a separate discipline. But in the scope of what I think the class is about, they have to be polished. Bugs, like the combat music not turning off, probably takes it from an A to like a B plus, right? I mean, you have music at all, that's great, but obviously there's a bug there with the combat music. The fact that there's a bug with the player camera being shoved because of the cheese man's attack, and the character being shoved into a different position, that's something that the student in the class should be able to fix and diagnose. And so those are all things that if this were a student project, it would take it from a strong A to like a B plus or so, because there's a lot of things about this that I would have really liked if it were a student project, but it would not be an A. And to me, that's not surprising that I would self-assess this, because again, I try to teach the students to do a careful, considered design process, not so considered that they, that they're locked into, endless deliberations, but you have to plan and execute your plan and then iterate on the plan effectively, as we do in the video game industry. We have plans, they change. It's never how it, what you plan is never how something turns out, but if you plan carefully, it does smooth the road for you in a certain kind of way. That's what I teach the students to do. So they need to be able to diagnose these little things that you saw throughout this project. They would need to be able to diagnose that and kind of fix that up. Okay, so I'm really happy with how this class turned out this spring. Like I said, there's amazing projects that just absolutely destroy this one. And I think everyone learned a lot. So I'm happy to take this, and then what I'm going to do in the summer is I'm going to take this and improve it. Not necessarily this is the messy instructor project, but I'm going to take the clean template that we've been maintaining, take that template, add some features to it that we'd like, because what happens is you do this and it's like you're testing software, and then we collect feedback from the students. Hey, it would be nice if this was in the template. And some of it, the students, it's their job to add, but some of it would be good if they had it from the beginning. So over the course of the summer, I'll improve that template, and then in this fall, they'll have the benefit of the improved one. So to any students that watch this that were in my class, I hope you enjoyed it. To any prospective students, I hope this inspires you. This is a kind of an upper classman, kind of junior level course, just to give you some indication of when you might take it in your plan of study, although we do get sophomores in there as well. But it is not something you would certainly not take this as a freshman. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you later.